Man, you're gonna keep me honest, aren't you? I'll give away all the secrets, and then I'll be on the internet for everybody to see. All right, it's 9:30. Should we begin now, or give a few more minutes? First of all, I want to say thank you. I know you had other options to choose this morning, but you came to listen to ExaGrid, and we appreciate that. My name is Ron McClellan. I'm the director of SEs for the West. Been with the company for, I was going to say something funny there, but I guess I won't. 18 years. So a good amount of time to learn a couple of things. How's that? I've got my partner in crime, Mitch Livingstone, who's in the back, who's an account manager, territory manager at ExaGrid, covers the peninsula, South Bay, all the way to Bakersfield, all the way over to...
Yeah, so it kind of goes down the peninsula, cuts over 237 through Milpitas, then it goes east, Modesto, Fresno.
Excellent. Thanks, Mitch. And then we have another territory manager, Scott Souza, who's at our table, our booth, and he handles everything north, all the way up to the Oregon border. We've got sales reps all over the country, all over the world. We just got an email from our CEO yesterday, which I was pretty happy to see. He just kind of wanted to go through and say, hey, look, guys, this is all the fun things and all the good things about ExaGrid at this point. We have 4,400 customers worldwide. We have over 81 countries that we have product in. We've got support centers all around the globe, and we're winning storage awards, cash and P&L positive, all that fun stuff, which makes you have the ability to do whatever you want in life, right? We don't owe anybody anything. So that's the company. We're based out of Marlborough, Massachusetts. That's where company headquarters is at. But of course, like I mentioned, with offices in London and Singapore and Sydney and the rest of the world. Some of our biggest customers are like Concur, if you know who they are, SAP Concur. They're in the travel and expense world. That was actually one of my first startups that I sold over a decade ago, which was a very small company at the time. But one of their challenges was as you can imagine, every time they'd go up and sell a customer, it was a new database that kept track of all your expenses of all the employees and all that stuff. And they, at the time, they only had about 3,000 customers. They were startups, still growing, but they couldn't find a product that kept up with doing 3,000 backups every single night. And I said, just give me a shot. Just put my product in. If it works, great. You'll love it. If it doesn't, you can kick me to the curb. I knew it was going to work, and not only did it work, but they've spent millions of dollars scaling out their ExaGrid deployment, and so it's a great story in how a company was able to buy in at a certain point, and as they grew, right now I believe they do over 45,000 backups an evening to their ExaGrid platform that they have for backup storage, and that's what we do. We call ourselves ExaGrid Tiered Backup Storage. So what does that specifically mean? We're in that backup space, right? We're storage for backup. So we sit behind your favorite backup application. Today's conference is really about AI and security. So I thought I would focus a lot of my first part of this talk around AI because, every company is going to have a story, right? With how you're going to put this technology into your product. And if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of give a little, let me jump into the company again, just some of those highlights. Real quickly, I'll burn past this one, but as you can see that we've been doing this for over 15 years. Net Promoter Score of 81. I didn't mention that one, but I like that one. Are you guys familiar with what that is? That's a customer satisfaction score. Net Promoter, these are the folks that go out and survey companies' customers and say, how well is ExaGrid treating you? There's a whole big survey thing, and then they rank you from negative 100 to positive 100. That's the scale. So first of all, you definitely don't want to be on the negative side of that scale, right? Companies like Apple are like Net Promoter Score of like 30 to 40 in there, and companies like Microsoft, things like that. So we're pretty happy that we have a score of 81, which just means, we really do try to take care of our customers, and I explained about that in a little bit. But let's kind of talk about AI and kind of where it's going, I think generally. And by the way, we're going to be giving away the Bose speaker. So if you haven't got a card, get one of those filled out. We'll put it in the bowl and give this away at the end. How's that sound? And then I'm going to just talk for a few more minutes, and we'll have you ask some questions, things like that. But, if you think about it, a lot of companies like ExaGrid, where you develop a product, we have it on a platform, an appliance, and you want to start building some intelligence into any type of device that you want to deploy and have customers buy. And a lot of the times it starts off with thresholds, right? You go in and you set a bunch of thresholds, maybe a min or max that you want to have. And if they're outside that parameter, then you want it to alert you, right? I mean, that's something basically we've been able to do for the last 50 years in IT, is set those things. Well, ExaGrid did that at the beginning as well. We could set mins and max, and we could set some settings to kind of curve a little of the behavior. But then we actually decided to go a little bit further and put a little bit more behavioral characteristics in, like, what if this happens? Why do we, for example, I'll give you a good one. Because we are tiered backup storage, okay, and our patented technologies back in the day, and the stuff that we're really proud of, is our deduplication technology. We started off doing byte level deduplication, which you can imagine is very granular, and we've scaled that out. We do zone level stamping now. We do a whole bunch of highly, I walked into our CTO's office one day and he goes, "Oh, Ron, let me introduce you to a couple of guys." And I'm like, sure. I walk in and it was like 3 guys from MIT. They had stuff on the board that, like, math way beyond my algebra 2. I'll just say that. No, I'm just kidding. I took a couple of calculus classes and physics classes, but this was way beyond that. And I said, man, you guys you're doing the think tank thing here. I'll get out of your hair. But there's a lot of math, a lot of calculations that go on with all that. I digress. But we wanted to be able to have different behavioral characteristics acted upon. For example, in our product, we're doing deduplication. So as you can imagine, we see lots and lots of backups. As those backups come into that, we shrink them down to unique bytes and pieces of data on disk, right? The redundant ones we throw away, put in a pointer. The unique ones we'll put on disk. That's how you get to shrink down hundreds of terabytes of data into a small footprint. Well, as we're doing this technology, there's some things that can be negative or have negative effects on a product like that. One of them is encryption. Encryption and deduplication are like oil and water. They don't mix, okay? So if you have a company who's purchased an ExaGrid and everything's going great now for months, they're saving all their backups, everything's doing great, they're getting these great deduplication numbers, and then over the weekend, deduplication changes and starts dropping dramatically. That's a behavioral characteristic, right? Deduplication drops dramatically. You know what? I bet we're being sent a bunch of encrypted data right now. And if we're being sent a bunch of encrypted data, what could be the cause of that? Anyone? Ransomware. We're getting a ransomware attack, right? I mean, that's what ransomware does. It goes out there and either tries to delete your data or encrypt it because it wants you to pay the bitcoins, right? It wants you to say, hey, and by the way, these guys are smart. They've been in your environment for months now. It's uncanny. I've gone to 3 security summits in the last probably 18 months. The last one was about a month ago in Iowa. And ransomware, unfortunately, is the world we live in. But we know that that's what they try to do. They try to crypt all your data. As soon as they do that, of course, they'll have all those screens pop up saying, if you want the key to unencrypt it, you give us X million in crypto or whatever. And so we learned that behavior and said, you know what, when we see that, we want to have flags going off. We want to alert people, and we want to have some maybe automated things happen. And so, again, we've gone from just the rudimentary basics of just setting mins and max and thresholds to let's look at what's going on in the environment and let's act accordingly. Okay, I think that's the next phase as we then start looking at AI and what AI can do for us in the way of intelligence gathering and being predictive about what things are happening or can happen in the future. So that's kind of where we're at today. ExaGrid, we're in that middle ground where we're still looking and talking about where AI fits for us as a technology. But I wanted to kind of give you that evolution because maybe you don't see that from a vendor, of how they go down that road, because it's not something where I don't believe. I mean, my company's going to just say, well, hey, we're X $100 million company, and we're just going to go and buy Google's AI engine and just roll it into our product. I don't believe we'll ever do that. I don't know how many companies will, but I'm sure there's going to be AI companies out there selling their engines to be able to do things. Our company's going to go through that progression that I just talked about. We're going to go through that learning knowledge because we know our product better than anybody, right? And we know our customers, and we're going to be wrapping all that information around what is actually going to be the platform we're going to develop and have over time. And it might be a component that we use of somebody else, but it all has to integrate, right? That's the key part. Any questions about that? I know I've kind of just ran down the AI road and kind of mentioned a little bit about that. And by the way, how does AI even apply to the storage that's out there, whether you've got primary storage disk or anything like that? Right now, you buy a storage array, typically it's not very smart, is it? It's pretty dumb. It's just a bunch of disks with a RAID controller card, and you send all your data there. That's pretty much the intelligence that we have in today's world. Well, I truly believe that will change, and that we'll be able to, have more smarts in those devices as well as with us about what's going on actually at the drive level and things like that. So I'm going to shift gear. Any questions around AI or anything like that, or things that you guys are curious to chat about before I'm going to talk about security as well, because I think that's paramount in today's world. Everybody signed the card for the Bose speaker? Okay. All right. So let's talk about security. Uh-oh. I died. Here we go. Thank you. I'm going to build this out rather than, because as you guys know, a security envelope is like an onion. It's got layers, and each layer needs to build on the next. And so as I go around this wheel, I want to kind of highlight some of the things we've done, but why did we do them? The first one, of course, is what we call our security checklist. Yes, Mitch?
As I'm back here listening, I was thinking we should show the two-tier method, and then, the two tiers, like the landing zone and then the repository.
Yeah.
First, and then that'll help them understand how the security applies to the repository and the recovery.
I love it. We can do that. That's easy. Thanks, man.
That was just a thought.
Yeah, no. So that's a good point. One of the architectural and fundamental differences of ExaGrid versus other products is what we call our tiered approach for storage. And so what we've done, instead of having a whole bunch of disks, inside an appliance that backups just go to, we actually divided that area up into two components. And I want you to think, and we call them a landing zone and a repository. I want you to think of the landing zone in your mind as a high-speed disk cache. We want to get backup data coming from your environment as fast as possible, line speeds all the way to us, land, and as they're landing, we can do our magic, but we're going to use that high-speed disk cache to store the most recent copies of your data in their full version. Does that make sense? So, there's just nothing faster than that. That's why we want to have this disk cache at the top. And then, of course, as backups land and pieces of them come to the landing zone, we recognize that because there's a lot of intelligence, as I said, into the product. We're going to make a copy, put it in the repository, and that's where we do our magic. All the deduplication happens in the repository tier. If it needs to be replicated, we'll do it from there as well. Does that make sense? Can everybody visualize kind of the high-speed disk cache sitting on top of a highly efficient deduplication engine, which is what our core technology is about? So really, you get two products in one. Yes, ma'am.
High-speed disk cache, that's where we can back up anywhere from 10 terabytes to 6 petabytes in a 6-hour window, right? So as Ron will talk about the grid and how you scale out, you guys can start small, 20 terabytes, right? And it'll still get backed up in a 6-hour window. As you start to grow, you get to petabytes in size, up to 6 petabytes can be backed up in that same 6-hour window, in that same single grid.
Yeah, that's one of the architectural differences we wanted to have in our product from the very beginning, which is, to Mitch's point, if we solve the backup window problem, for example, if your backups are taking you hours, days, maybe several days to complete, we want to get them done in just a few hours, like Mitch said. Once you do that, you solve that problem. As you expand, right, you don't want to have to resolve that problem. You want to be able to have that short backup through the whole time you grow. And so, to Mitch's point, we can do that. But I think in showing there's some advantages. And I wish I could say we had a crystal ball when we came up with this architecture 18 years ago, but it was just something that we thought, how can we make a very fast product, but give deduplication technology out on a platform that isn't going to have you pay any performance penalty? Okay, and that's really what we wanted to do. And so some of the advantages, we had no idea companies like Veeam and Veritas and Commvault and others were going to be able to come out in the future with the ability to spin up VMs, take a VM and basically spin it up, put it in a sandbox, test it and blow it away, or vMotion it back over to production. We didn't know that was going to happen in the future, but guess what? Our architecture is perfect for that environment. So take your backup application, go in, grab one of the backup jobs, the VMs that are sitting here, spin it up, play with it all you want, and then do your dev testing on it, right? Put your virus, ransomware software on there, so you can make sure it's going to do what you want, and then you either roll it into production or you just say, oh, it didn't pass, we're going to just blow it away. You have options, and that's what the landing zone gives you, is the ability to spin those up in literally seconds. It's amazing to me as I go into people's organizations and they're like, yeah, we tried doing that once. It took 8 or 9 hours to spin up a VM. I'm like, well, let's just try it out. The last one I did was about a 10 terabyte VM. It was up in less than 2 minutes. Okay, so we're fully populated, ready to roll. So good point, Mitch, is to just chat about that. By the way, the landing zone is a network-facing tier. That's what your backup app sees. That's how it sends backups to it. The repository tier is non-network facing. Okay, so basically there's no code in our system that allows access to the repository tier for anyone outside the organization. So it is immutable. Nothing can be, in fact, there's no code that allows you to change a backup in our environment, right? If you think about it, all you really want to be able to do is add backups and delete backups. There's no other functions that should be done. You shouldn't be able to modify or change or anything. And so there's literally no code in our system to allow us to do that. So, and then we have one of the features that I'll talk about, which is delayed deletes, where we lie. I'm just going to be brutally honest and say we lie. The backup app comes and says, hey, I want you to delete this backup. We're at the end of its retention policy. And what are we going to do? Yeah, sure. We'll delete it. Thumbs up. Guess what? We're really not going to delete it. We're going to keep it around for as long as you want us to. By default, another 10 days, but you can move that around to whatever you want. But it's the delay delete feature, which customers like. By the way, I did ask our support manager this year. I said, this year, how many times have we saved one of our customers from paying ransomware after a ransomware attack? And he goes, we're up to like 47 now. And since this one was in the paper, I can share. I'm sure they don't want me going around and spreading it, but Microchip, one of the largest manufacturers in the world, was just hit 3 weeks ago with a major ransomware attack. The meeting I was in with them, the first thing they said is, man, we are so grateful we had Veeam and ExaGrid. Can we just tell you how much we appreciate not only how you guys are getting us out of this problem, but how responsive you've been to help us through the whole process? Because as you can imagine, you get hit with ransomware. Number one, you freak out, right? You're like, I'm being attacked. What do I do? Then you start clamping things down, right? And by the way, if all your clouds or all your data's in the cloud, all right, what's the first thing you do when you get hit by ransomware? You cut your internet connection because you don't want them to be able to attack you anymore. Now, how are you getting to all that data? This is why we build an appliance that goes on-prem. If something let's say that we could predict earthquakes in the Bay Area and we knew what was going to happen this weekend, I guarantee I'd be taking my ExaGrid, putting in my car, and we'd be driving to Reno in the fastest car I own because I want my data to be protected. And I know if my data's with me, it's going to be protected. If it's out in some cloud somewhere, I have no idea what the status of that's going to be. So, with that, I answered your question, Mitch, about architecture a little bit. If you don't mind, I'm going to jump back to the security slide because I think this is where, like that onion, we're going to build on some various components. The first one is a security checklist. And the security checklist allows you, the customer of ExaGrid, to look down a set of items and say, I want to make sure my ExaGrid appliance is as secure in my data center as it can be. So we're going to give you a checklist. We're going to say, hey, have you turned on 2FA, multi-factor authentication? How many of you are doing that right now in your organization? Can I just say thank you, and thank you? The only loss of data that I know that we had as a customer was a company in Mexico that basically the attackers got in and was able to delete everything, even the delayed deletes, because they had full access, because they sniffed on the wire for months and they hadn't turned on multi-factor authentication. You turn on to it, and you don't have to roll it out to everybody, right, in the company. I don't care how you do it, but please, in your organization, and your job in IT, turn on 2FA. I mean, think of it. You can't go to the bank right now, your bank website, without 2FA, right? You can't go to your brokerage account without 2FA. I mean, it's just part of our life. Everyone knows what 2FA, right? Is it multi-factor authentication is? Thank you for nodding. I appreciate. I didn't want to go into the whole discourse on that, but happy to. It's something you know and something you have, right? Your phone or something like that. All right. So the security checklist is there to make sure as you go down these things and enable them, your system becomes more secure in the environment. The second one is ransomware recovery. We talked about the delayed deletes a little bit. The default, like I said, is 10 days. We keep things around. You can change that. Now, I'm going to say most of you are very smart people, and it probably wouldn't take you 10 days to know if you've been attacked. If you got attacked like now, like this hour, I'm sure it wouldn't be that long before you would start seeing things pop up in your alert system to say there's something bad going on. So granted, we give you 10 days. You can move that to whatever you feel comfortable with. But, and by the way, the delayed deletes truly does. It freezes the ExaGrid to say, hey, something bad's happening, something nefarious, we need to go and start doing restores or whatever we need to do. So of course, encryption at the drive level. Yeah, we sell a family of products. They're just regular drives. And then we have a family of products, the matching family that has what we call SEC drives, or the self-encrypted drives. Do most of my sales folks sell the regular line? No, I think Mitch will even tell you most of what he tells people is, look, this is hardware encryption. If you ever think you're going to want to have this, you got to have the hardware in the system to be able to do it. And there's not, for ExaGrid, we don't charge a big premium for it. There is a slight change because Seagate and others charges differently for drives. But I would just encourage everyone to get encrypted at rest technology. That's what you want. So at the drive level, not in software level. Okay, that sucks. Performance degradation. Anytime somebody says, you got to ask, where do you do your encryption? And if they say software, just walk away. It's too slow. It's archaic. It all can be done very quickly in hardware these days. WAN encryption. You know, everybody uses the internet these days to move from one site to another, something like that. You may use a public cloud to do that. You want to make sure that your stuff is secure through that process as well. Role-based access, that's really the big push that we've had in the last couple of years, which means one of your coworkers is going to be let go on Friday. Today's Friday. Okay, not today, maybe next week. And maybe they're not the nicest person. They're going to go in and start deleting stuff. Okay, well, one single person shouldn't have that kind of ability to go in and start wiping out all your infrastructure, data, things like that. There needs to be, as you know, the analogy that you see in the submarine movies where there's two people with keys and they have to have codes and all that. Well, that's what we've done in the ExaGrid. We've got a security officer role, we've got an admin role, and we actually have a backup user role that you can go in and just kind of see what's going on in the system, make minor changes. But you need to have both persons' approval to do anything critical on the ExaGrid. Now, hopefully you've set up our product where not the same person have both those roles, right? That would be a way to get around it. You wouldn't want to do that. So we have the security officer role. By the way, and there's things that only the security officer can to do, like change the retention time lock, because you wouldn't want somebody sniffing your admin password and then going and changing the retention time lock to 0, right? And then saying, I want you to delete everything. Well, that would be bad. So we're gonna have that functionality reserved for the security officer role. Two-factor authentication, I've already talked about that. And then the rest of these really do have to do with the browser and security certificates, like the TLS certificates using, a secured HTTPS, and the protocols we use with the browser. All of that is all included in that onion. And so this is all part of that checklist. So and by the way, it'll have a red badge or a green badge. They all start off red. As you go down there, you start enabling them. They turn green. Then you're going to feel good. Okay, I can sleep through the night now knowing that everything is safe and secure with my ExaGrid in my environment. So as I mentioned before, it's a simple product. It simply fits like this is your environment, right? You've got a whole bunch of storage out there. You've got file servers. You've got routers. You've got all that stuff. You've got physical things. You've got virtual things. We sit on-prem as disk backup storage, right? Tiered backup storage. So you can back up to us very quickly. But then if you want to move out to the cloud or somewhere else secondarily, we give you that and it's free included in the product. Or you can use the backup application to replicate out, whatever choice you want to do. All of this is included in the product. You just need another ExaGrid somewhere else. So and you can even do multi-hop, right? Maybe you want to go to
B2C.
Yeah, I mean, Cliff Bar, which actually is not far from here, that was one of their first requirements to me is, Ron, we've got 3 data centers. We do this. And I'm like, well, okay, we can do that. We'll move things to A, B, and C and move things around. So you can do that. So again, it broke down. So thank you. All right. So let me go. I'm going to just take the last few minutes and walk through a scenario with you because this is what could happen. This is your practice session, okay? Your practice session is, okay, I went to work this morning and all my primary data was just encrypted. My backup application and backup storage has been hacked into, okay? All backup data is deleted. It's gone. I go out and do a directory scan. There's nothing, nada, okay? If you have a lot of the products that are out there, you're done. I mean, I think I'll fill out my resume today and figure out where I'm going to work next because that's just a bad scenario, right? So all your backup data is gone, everything. So with ExaGrid, all those backups have landed on us. We've turned on multi-factor authentication, so they weren't able to hack into our system because they don't have those passwords and things like that. We have that non-network facing tier, which is that retention zone where all of our data is sitting there, ready to be restored. It's controlled by ExaGrid. Like I said, there's no software that allows access. We've got our delayed delete policy, so we know our data is going to be there. We go into the interface, we hit a button, it then freezes the ExaGrid, and so we have plenty of time to restore. In fact, we often tell customers, you know what, just give us a call. We know you're kind of freaking out at this point. Just give us a call. We'll be that nice sounding board for you. We'll help calm you through this and walk you through how you're going to take, and we'll rebuild your backup server with you, and then we'll start doing restores off the ExaGrid platform as we talked about. So that's something that we do there. So again, graphically, that's what it looks like, right? Now the landing zone, maybe they did gain access. If you set up a CIFS or NFS connection, those are pretty easily hacked, right? That's why we support Veeam's accelerated data mover. We support Veritas's OST because they have more secure methods to keep your data safe. But again, all that data is protected in the repository tier and that. So the other scenario, and then I know we're got a minute left for questions and to win something. Encrypted data is written to the backup storage, encrypted data directly to everything. Now, again, it's encrypted. What are you going to do with it? You can't do crap. You got to get it back. With us, if we start seeing encrypted data, we don't care. We just see it as, I'll use the technical word, gobbledygook. We look at it and go, I don't know what that is. So we'll just throw it on the system and as a new backup, right? Because we just don't know what it is. But the nice thing is it's not going to be able to affect anything that we've already seen because it's all new data. It's encrypted. So again, we can go ahead and restore from the repository tier. So we invoke recover mode, go through a few steps. It's very simple to do this, and our customers have really been, like I said, appreciative of us helping them through this process. All right, with that, let's give away something, right?
I'm going to mention a couple.
Yes, go ahead.
Highlights. Remember, you can back up anywhere from 10 terabytes to 6 petabytes in a 6-hour window. That repository that Ron talked about quite a bit, it is not network facing, so it cannot be hacked, right? There's no method of them to get to that, right? So if everything else is gone, as he's shown a couple of scenarios, our tech team will work with your on-site tech team and recover the data as quickly as your network is up. We can literally have a company up and running in less than an hour if their network is up and running, right? 3 other key things. The price that you pay day one with us is the price that you pay in writing, guaranteed moving forward, right? The second piece is none of our products are obsolete. As Ron mentioned, we could have 32 of them in a grid. We've got companies that still have products that are running and they're 7 and 10 and 13 years old, right? They're still part of an active grid. So we don't obsolete them. And then maintenance, after you've paid your maintenance, the first, 1, 3, 5 years, we also guarantee in writing that it won't go up more than 3%. So we're not like a lot of the companies that, hey, this is the newest product, cool. Here's what the cost is day one, it's a great price, but in 5 years, it's obsolete. You buy a new product or you pay maintenance, that's crazy. It doesn't happen to us. It doesn't go up more than 3% year over year, right? And that's all written and guaranteed in writing, okay? So it's not just us talking, a sales rep talking, or a SE manager. It's on your contract, okay? So we'll kind of go down that path.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate that.
But,
Yeah, those are all good things to kind of highlight.
Yeah, I want to make sure you guys hear those, key 5 things, right? The backup window, and as Ron mentioned, we can recover VMs, in moments, right? So, all right, Chad, you get to pick one.
Chad's going to pick the winner of our giveaway, Bose speaker.
And I need my glasses.
Yeah, help him out there, but let's get on.
So it's Jonathan. Jonathan. All right. Let's go.
There you go. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We'll be at the table. You're welcome to come by and ask questions there. And appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.